Hello, sorry, I'm running behind. I had to scramble to get this thing started on time. I still missed it by a minute, but we're getting locked in. It's still early. I tend to ramble for a minute or two before these things start anyway. A minute or two or 3 or 10. Sorry, I gotta get in the right headspace. Gotta have my nicotine, gotta have my, sparkling water in a can. I hope everybody's well. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's been like the better part of a month since the last time I did one of these things. It's nice to be doing it again. For anyone who's new here, my name is Chris Robinson, Christopher Charles Robinson. I use my full name because there's a lot of Chris Robinsons in the world. And tonight I'm just going to be reading some stuff. My computer is being very noisy. I'm going to put it up on a book and see if that results in better airflow here. Hopefully that does the trick. I think it's getting enough here. I'm sorry if there's a fan sound in the background the whole time. Why is it doing that? Interesting. Oh, it never did that before. Close this. This. Okay. Yeah. I hope that shows out. Sorry, technical difficulties. First 2 minutes of this thing are going to be comprised of technical difficulties. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll start over. My name is Chris Robinson. Christopher Charles Robinson is my full name. I use it because there's too many Chris Robinsons in the world. I'm going to be reading tonight from Nathan Dragon. I've read previously from his collection, The Champ Is Here, on another one of these a little while ago. And I read quite a few of the stories from that book. I hope not too many of them. And tonight I'm coming back to Nathan Dragon because he has a new story or novel excerpt, rather, published just a few days ago in Southwest Review, which is actually based not far from me here in Dallas, Texas. So that's very exciting. So as it turns out, this whole time, Nathan Dragon has been working on a novel, and excerpts are beginning to appear. He linked me to another one earlier today that I haven't had a chance to read yet. But so you've got that one. You've got this one if you're watching in Southwest Review. And there's another one that's supposed to be appearing in Paraphase Journal, which is based in Australia, I believe. And so that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to reading all this new work from him because I really like his stories. And I followed him for quite a long time in Noon Annual. I know he publishes other places as well, but my experience of his work mostly came from Noon Annual, which is published by Diane Williams out of New York City. I don't know. All of that's just a whole lot of rambling about what I'm here to do tonight. And, I don't know. I never prepare these things in advance except like the reading material itself. Which, yes, you can read this online. I'll put a link in the a description after this video gets uploaded, or at least the URL, even if it's not a clickable link. I'm sorry, I'm inept about these things. But it's very much worth your time. I'm really, really excited to see how it eventually figures into the structure of a novel. I don't know. I dabble a little bit in writing myself, and I'm still at the point where I could never envision sitting down and writing a long piece like that. And I've followed his work for years and admired his short stories so much. It's so exciting to know that a novel is being written and will eventually be published, and I'll get it in my greedy little hands and read it. And I don't know, I have a strong feeling based on this that it's going to be incredible. But so yeah, from a currently unnamed, or at least unknown to me, novel by Nathan Dragon. This piece is called If You're Watching. And if you're watching, thank you for being here tonight. And yes, I printed it out because I'm a fucking nerd. If You're Watching by Nathan Dragon. Last night when I finally went in, I decided I wanted to sleep in the living room like I had when I was a kid. It was either the living room on the blue corduroy pull-out couch or in the garage on one of the 2 trundle beds under the windows. Those beds would squeak when you crawled in. It was nice sitting out in the dark. Now it's a slow morning. I'm on my back. I woke up on this new couch. Faux suede. It's tan. It seems wrong. I have to sit up soon. I'm fighting against it. Or no, I'm just not sitting up, not getting up because it feels good to lie here in the quiet. But I'm getting hot. The ceiling fan's moving slowly, but it's clicking. Sit up. Try to see what's clicking on the fan. I think it's just the pole chain swinging funny. Where's the dog? Going slow for the both of us. Call him. Hey, come here. Where are you, bud? I woke up earlier for a second and he was with me, so he must have gotten up to get in the bed we're usually in. Yup. There he is. He moves across the room, stops, bows, and stretches. Okay, I'll get up. I'm up. He wants to do something today, I can tell. Give me a sec. We did something yesterday. Now he expects it. And I love him, so I will. Looking at me that way, bud. Okay, me too. Something, I don't know what. We will. First, get up, get going, get things lined up. Follow things the way they're going. Put water on. Feed the dog while it's heating up. Still early enough for the dog at the lake. Haven't even looked at the time yet. Look. Yes. Got a little bit. I'll bring him down. Quick coffee, then get ready. Shoes, hat, sunscreen, the leash, shit bags. All right. Let's go, bud. At the bottom of the hill, he howls, stops in his tracks, snout to the sky. He's pointing. Oh, what's up, Kyle? Good to see you, man. Sorry. We're early enough in this. I'll reintroduce it, Kyle. We're reading a story or an excerpt from a novel that's forthcoming from Nathan Dragon. This section is called "If You're Watching." You haven't missed much of it so far. Basically, the guy has gotten up and his dog wants to do something today, so it's a little inconvenient. But he's going to take his dog down to the lake and for a little while. Oh man, I'll do a Thomas Wolfe reading sometime, but that's intimidating, Kyle. Golly. I have been reading large sections of Look Homeward, Angel aloud, though. It's just so beautiful when you read it out loud. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that was just the end of it. It's divided into sections. So I'll just proceed with the second section. This is If You're Watching by Nathan Dragon. At the bottom of the hill, he howls, stops in his tracks, snout to the sky. He's pointing. Detour into the woods as a distraction. Stand at the spring that dips under the road, where Mimere used to fill up jugs with the spring water. In the pine pitch along the spring, there's an impression, almost a gouge in the earth as long as my leg. The dog's pulling me toward it, to sniff at it. Could be anything. I don't know. Let's go, bud. Out of the woods, back on the road. Turn onto the path to the lake. As we do, we can hear the bullfrogs. Glad we keep going with the time we have. There's a snapped line floating from a branch like a spider web above the creek. Pause, look. It's bouncing around in the wind. Sometimes it disappears in the sunlight. I can tell its line. I can follow it back to a bauble tangled in the leaves. Could be one of mine from years ago. Kids, rushing a cast in a pinch, swearing we saw the big bass. Probably not, though. The bobber looks too new. Sometimes it seems there are more people up here, more kids fishing than there's ever been. Sometimes it feels like the lake's empty, like it's never been. We turn around and walk through the boats, up the beach, through raked sand, to a table, and sit. Mr. Poole, who swims across the lake and back every morning, is just getting out of the water now. I wave hello. I've heard people calling him Tad, but that doesn't seem real. He walks through the sand, too, back to his table. Watch him sit and put a towel to his face. It's sweet. Feel a little pang of sadness, hot, sore jealousy, the pinch inside, how I might not make it like that. I want to be old here, but it's been coming back, I think. If it is, it is. I don't want to think about it. This time with the dog, this time with the dog here, it's beautiful. The dog's quiet with me. It's nice. He can be, sometimes. Notice it gratefully. Rare for him. I like that he's quiet right now. I hope we see the loon, maybe hear the loon, but I know that could get him along. See the deacon show up. There's a few people with him walking behind him, 4 guys, and he's avoiding me, which is fine because the dog already shot up and cocked his head at them. These must be important people. The important people. I think about letting the dog go, but I can't for his sake. I love him. Get up and go. Start our walk back. Stop a few steps into the path out. Try to half secretly watch. It's fine if he sees me. The deacon's standing in the sand with them. I think, God, I should go rake the sand around them. They're facing the lake. He's pointing. They're nodding. They start stripping off t-shirts, glasses, hats, getting ready for a swim. And they do. Walking out till they can't touch. They're swimming for the dock. A few of them seem to struggle. The first few get there, then the deacon. The last 2. I go back to the beach, rake where I was sitting. Can't forget. I'm responsible. I'm not dealing with anything if I don't have to. I grab the rake and take care of my spot. Bring the rake over to where the deacon and his folks' stuff is. Lean the rake against the table. They're sitting on the dock listening to the deacon, who is standing up now. Say something. He's talking and moving and gesturing. He looks odd, off. He pauses, stops, and points over in my direction. I stare back. I wave. Let's go, bud. We walk around the yard some. The dog started sniffing and tracking something once we turned up the driveway. I wish I hunted him if we'd started him sooner. Probably still could, though. He's a little too old, as far as I know, to train him. He's not old at all. Too old for that, the training. Being conditioned that way, disciplined, might be a little difficult. I watch him moving around, nose down, tail up. I don't know. Maybe we could. We could try. We do the perimeter of the yard, spiral into the center, and I notice the fire pit's been dragged. You can see the lines in the sand, and there in the torn up moss. I feel like I want to do an errand, take a little drive. I imagine the deacon will be tied up a little while with whoever he's with. Get another blade for the handsaw, for the next round of X's. What else do I need? Probably enough time to go out to the mega store. Sounds nice. Could stop at Johnston's on the way back. Smoked bone for the dog. He loves all the fat and the marrow. But I've got to think of what I could get at the big store. Right? I should go there. I'll think of what else on the ride or be reminded when I get there. I know there's something else I want to get. Keys. Double check things. Triple check. I'm off. Backing down the driveway. Stop. Get out. Run to the back slider. Pull on the handle. Locked. Around to garage slider. Same thing. Go out the front next time. Hard to get in that habit. We've never really used the front door like that. Feels good to take a drive. Static sound from the driving on the dirt road. Flick around the radio stations. For a good song or some kind of talk of a local station would have that I like to hear sometimes. Look around at the light and the trees, the fern and the shadows, the blue, the pale tan dirt road, dusty trees. For a second, reminds me of the desert, getting the dog. I miss it. It was working, was breathing good. Miss it. Dog loved the heat, chasing lizards, laying in the aloe shade. Be quick on this errand, no dilly-dallying. Like the way it feels to change from dirt road to pavement. The other way better, though. A pitch shift, sound change, like you've entered something. You're in a new place that sounds like that instead. Windows are half open, not thinking anything. Peripheral blue. Park and put the windows up. It feels like summer in the parking lot, on the dark tarmac. Macadam, tarmacadam. Grab a cart on the way into the garden department, pushing the carts, a tinny version of driving the car. Put a couple small terracotta pots in the cart. Thought of something else. Knew I could. I'll take a couple strawberry plants from the yard with me when I have to leave. Look for the saw blade. Cart smoothed out from rough outside ground to inside polished concrete. Think of driving again. Inside to the saws and saw blades. Walking up an aisle past a stack of lawn chairs. Sit outside tonight. Sit quiet and have a fire. Get a couple things for the grill at Johnston's too. Check real quick here, the grocery side of the mega store. I'm here, right? The big animal chase the other night probably wouldn't have happened if I was sitting there, right? It could. I'd worry about the dog and what he'd do. But if it's late enough, he won't be out with me. He'll have asked to go to bed. I feel like I didn't have a thought all night. It's getting late. Nothing much is happening. No deacon. No animal chase. Too late for me to pay attention. I can't tell what I hear. Wind? The fire's dimming out, smoke's getting in my eyes, head's starting to pound, a little shaky. Get up to go inside. I go and sit on the couch, curling over. I'll watch a movie. I'll watch the beer smuggling outlaw with the rival sheriff. Watch, though, something will happen outside now that I'm in, and I'll miss it. Pot of water thing won't boil if you're watching. Yeah. So I'm sorry if you missed the intro. That was If You're Watching by Nathan Dragon. It's an excerpt from a novel that he's been writing. And now I really want to read the rest of it. But I know I'll have to wait, and that's okay. It's okay. I'll live. But yeah, just as per usual, it's just on a sentence level pretty beautiful. Kyle, Nathan Dragon is a guy who's been publishing short stories for quite a while. I've been following him in Noon Annual, which is published by Diane Williams, who you know how I feel about Diane Williams, so I don't need to go into that here. I obsessed. But yeah, he's been writing these. Some of them are really short, but he just published a collection called "The Champ Is Here." Came out, I think, back in December, and it collects a lot of the stories that I've been reading in Noon for quite a long time, and yeah, I really like his stuff. And then the other day, that was published in the Southwest Review, which is actually based here in Dallas. So that's very cool. There's now a Dallas connection here, and that is yeah, it's an excerpt from a novel he's been writing, and he sent me a link to another excerpt from it that was published elsewhere. But he sent it earlier today, and I haven't had time to read it yet, so I'll read it tonight. But yeah, that one came out the other day, and I read it basically as soon as I got home from work, and was like, oh, I have to read this on the thing. So I messaged him, and he's really nice, so he was willing to allow me to read it. So that was really cool. But I realized that that wasn't that long. So, and I said if there was time, I would like to read at least one other thing by him. So I'd like to read this story now because it's a little longer. I think it's actually the longest story in this collection. The Champ Is Here. And it's one of my favorites, but I did not get to read it last time because I read a lot of the real shorter ones, but neglected to read this particular one because it's closer to the end of the book, and I kind of forgot where it was and expected to get to it sooner in the reading. So basically I hit the hour last time and was like, oh God, I don't get to read the one I was kind of looking forward to reading the whole time. They're all really fun, and I've read through this collection numerous times now. It's just one, it's become another one of those that I just pick up when I want something short and sweet and that I can have just a great time with. And the more I go back to it, the more and more little things about it I notice that I didn't notice before. I've talked before about rereading and how important I think it is. So I don't feel like I need to go into that again now. But Yeah, this is another one of those, and he's just one of those authors in general. Like I would just periodically pick up, no, go back a few years and pick out this new, and oh yeah, okay, cool, sweet, it's got some Nathan Dragon in it, and I'll read it, and I love it. Yeah, Christine Scott's in Noon too. Kyle, you know how I feel about Christine Scott. Be Still My Heart. Lydia Davis, she pops up in there. Lucy Elvin. Catherine Scanlon I found through Noon. I don't know. So much great stuff coming out of Noon. And I look forward to it every year for that very reason. One of these days, Kyle, maybe one of these days. That's the holy grail. If I can ever get anything in Noon, I'd lose my freaking mind. Take a sip of this before I get going on it. Okay. So, this is The Longest Story in The Champ Is Here by Nathan Dragon. And I hope he doesn't mind me reading it, but yeah, was disappointed I didn't get to read it on the last time I read a bunch of his stories on here. So, finally, the long-awaited. This is called I Took My Baby Down to Brown's Lobster Pound. This is a great title. First of all, you just see that on a page and you're just like, oh my God. Especially because like a lot of the stories leading up to this have shorter titles. And then you run headlong into this big bold, I took my baby down to Brown's Lobster Pound. So good. It turns out, Kyle, he's a Brautigan admirer. I was chatting with him a little bit, and he mentioned really liking Richard Brautigan, because I was saying like at certain points there's like certain really specific things that remind me that I find like sort of Brautigan-esque within his work, and I wasn't sure if he had read him at all, and I don't know how intentional it was. I just know that was one of his. It was like a big. Like he just, when he was getting into reading, Richard Brautigan was like a big one for him. So that's cool because he was a massive one for me. I'm trying to think of just like something like the way things sound sometimes. Like there's like there's that sentence in If You're Watching that I just read, but both times I've read it aloud. I run into this sentence. Put a couple small terracotta pots in the cart. It's a really simple sentence, but it's like got this like rhythm about it and this kind of musical. I don't know. It's weird. For whatever reason, I read that sentence and it makes me think of Brautigan. I don't know if that's like way off or what, but because it's short and it's like it's concise, but it still has like a really like a poetry to it. I don't know. Another thing, just a reminiscence. I don't know. A vague resemblance, whatever you want to call it. I like it. Whatever you want to call it, I really like that sentence. And I didn't really notice it until I read it aloud. And it's like, put a couple terracotta cots in the cart. I don't know why. I don't know why I like that so much. Does anybody else ever run into that where like you just read like a random sentence in something and like it's not like not much really hinges upon it, but it's like it just sticks out at you for some reason? I don't know. All my favorite sentences are like that. Yeah, I'm a giant nerd. All my favorite sentences are like that. Still, it remains pretty much undefeated. But my favorite, I still think when I like people ask my favorite sentence, I think it's still, it's from that Diane Williams story, but it was happily in the near distance, the fence was making the most of its colonial post caps. I don't know why I like that sentence so much, but that's just a fantastic sentence. sticks in my mind. It's stuck in my mind from the moment I read it. And I don't memorize things quickly generally. So like there's something about that sentence that my brain just loves. I don't know whether it's the rhythm of it or the oddness of personifying a fence post. It's just such a good sentence. And you run across it on the page, and aloud or not, you just run headlong into that sentence. And it's just like, so great. I don't know. Everything about it. The impulse of it, how it looks on the page, how it sounds when you read it aloud. It's just, and like where it is within the story. It's really, it's invigorating. It's the shit I live for. Or the shit I read for anyway. Anyway, enough about that. Without further ado, I promise, this is I Took My Baby Down to Brown's Lobster Pound by Nathan Dragon. I owed my baby one. She'd said she always wanted to go. These were two different things, me owing her and us going. In a way, I owed her one and had the answer because I thought of it. Brown's Lobster Pound. Perfect surprise because I needed to show some sort of gesture right then. 2 parts sorry, 1 part celebration. Her saying she always wanted to go was a different matter. For a while, she'd said she always wanted to go. But I think she forgot about it, or the idea of going. I knew she'd like it. That was obvious. It's her kind of place. I didn't forget because I had actually been. She hadn't. She had at one point asked about it all the time, how I never took her, but just talked the place up so much. I'd gone a few times growing up. Best lobster rolls, everything straightforward. I remember getting steamers there in a big basket as a kid. You'd love it, I told her. She loves steamers and she didn't grow up with them. I know a lot of people who didn't grow up eating them and don't like them when they try them. My baby wanted to go. My baby's name is Buggy, and so I call her that. I can't repeat what she calls me. Buggy will be my wife one day. To be safe, I've got to establish and reestablish in her eyes that I can handle that kind of business. Be as provisional as necessary, and that's tough, and even go beyond that. We talk about it a lot. I've been told many times. I've been told many things that are better to be remembered than forgotten, which, of course, has happened. When we first got together, I told her about the lobster rolls at Brown's, how it was a short drive, even though it was only a state away. She's from a whole handful of those big states that take a few days to drive through, half the country. Sometimes I'll ask, but if you had to pick one to be from? Buggy's always got Amarillo on the mind. I love that about her. And so Brown's was kind of regionally exotic to her, quite the opposite of what she grew up with, and in some ways exactly the same. Odd that we hadn't gone. I wasn't trying to keep her from it, or it from her. Kind of felt like sometimes I didn't even know if I remembered Brown's the right way. Am I sure it's Brown's where I was thinking of? I looked up pictures and was almost certain it was. We just never took the trip. There were times it just didn't come up for a while. When it did, we talked about regional delicacies. My steamers, roast beef, fried clam rolls, baked haddock. Her Jell-O salads, mostly. You have to say something like green leaf salad if you want a classic lettuce-based garden salad. Otherwise, they give you all kinds and colors of Jell-O. She also had buckets of ranch at the state fair. I'd tease her frequently about going. I'd say, let's go get one of those famous rolls. And really, we'd go to the grocery store, get an imitation seafood roll on the way home at one of the Circle Store spots that speckled the mini region. The store is right in the middle of a rotary. Otherwise, we'd get sidetracked. Brown's is out on the side of this little salt marsh. The water, the marsh grass and sandbars, blue, green, and gold. I could picture her sitting, sweating beautifully and happily there in the humid sun on the porch of this little seafood cafeteria, on the other side of a little poor man's Cape Cod-looking town. Bars, restaurants, stores for novelty t-shirts and beach miscellany, tattoo parlors. Brown's was a couple miles beyond all this, right off the main road. Kind of out there, but there's space around it because of that. The ocean and marsh, a big sun-faded, salt-rusted billboard across the street advertising fireworks. I wanted it to be a big surprise. I set it up that way. I tried to be sneaky. I wanted to surprise her. I wanted her to be surprised, and this would be the hardest to successfully pull off. And I owed her. So we went to Brown's Lobster Pound. And for some time before this, I'd been acting despicably. I was working through a sort of comparatively logical posture towards the things of my life. At work, to colleagues, to strangers. Buggy told me this. She declared me non compos mentis, and I asked how. I was letting a lot of things slip, she said, eschewing all responsibility. I only made poor decisions and even poorer excuses regarding my decisions. I wasn't even trying. I had nothing to do, and I pretended that whatever it was I was doing was extremely important, critical. It was an act. Brown's would be the remedy. I'd be off the hook. She would like the drive, too, through little tourist towns on the ocean between Mass and New Hampshire. I love the drive. I'm always interested in the growing frequency of live free or die license plates. I told her about a couple errands I wanted to do. I had it figured out. I asked if she wanted to come with me. I said, I was thinking maybe heading out early afternoon. Not too bad. It's the middle of the week. Because we always like to go out when it's slow. I threw in that we could think of something else to do after. She said, yeah, and asked where we were going, because if we were going to be near the big, nice health food store, she wanted to get a couple of things to try. So when we left, I think she thought errands. At any point after maybe 20 minutes of driving, I knew she'd ask where we were going because of this health food store request. And Buggy did. She asked how the big, nice health food store was going to figure in if this was the direction we were heading. I always think I'm good at making a surprise for someone. But then I just end up telling the person what the surprise is early because I get too excited. It feels good to think of a really good surprise, a little treat. I thought Brown's would be a real treat because Buggy's become such a seafood freak. And we could still do a couple errands later. I tried not to say anything. Brown's Lobster Pound. I kept thinking to myself not to say anything. Let the surprise be a surprise. She made a few guesses. She didn't get it, though. Are we going to see somebody? No. Ice cream? There's plenty of closer places. But there's that new one I heard about. It's this way, I think. Is that where? Nope. Some kind of big thing to look at? I don't know. She got mad when she thought we were going to get another dog because I laughed. I started listing off possible names. In the back of my mind, I was still half worried she wouldn't remember Brown's, but ultimately it didn't matter. I was getting points, I hoped, for taking her to a delicious and classic place. I kept changing the radio song and Buggy got pissed. She said, "Stop changing the stations." But I didn't, and she wouldn't talk to me. I'd let myself get sucked into the argument, forgetting my goal. It started us both feeling slightly sour. So I sang her a song from my Catholic school days called "God is the Gas in My Go-Kart," and did the accompanying dance motions with my right hand while driving with my left. The last line is, "Filled up with God, I can't fail." It was good. That was the song we all loved singing when we had to be singing something, some assembly or spring show. My song turned it all around, and I felt briefly but densely confident I pulled it off. It was almost bad. So I was excited that our moods relightened. And obviously I was excited we were going to Brown's Lobster Pound. It's not like I wasn't going there to not eat. We passed the handful of suburban exits, stands of trees, exits, trees, salt marshes, blank spaces, parking lots, fireworks stands, beach towns. I took an exit and woods turned to beach, turned to marsh, to beach lined with RV parking. Then there's the permanent slow crawl through the center of town, all due to the high concentration of groups of people in flip-flops, carrying coolers, dragging carts and wagons, beach chairs, pails, kids, and boogie boards. The town turned to parking, back to beach, then a long, empty stretch of salt marsh. When we made it through, I elbowed Buggy. I could see the Browns sign. I pointed. Buggy yelled, "Oh!" I remember thinking, I fucking pulled it off. I said, "Hell yeah, baby." We parked next to a yellow car with orange and red flame graphics on the back window. It wasn't raining, but I smelled or was reminded of the smell of hot and wet concrete. Standing up out of the car in the tar seal parking lot, I pictured it steaming off in the sun, the mist turning to little waves of heat distortion. We wrapped around the pastel yellow and beige brown building. I didn't remember which counter was for which. This is when I start to get really anxious. Situations like this, the etiquette and flow of a place. I was certain I'd been to Brown's before. I kept thinking, this is the place. Yeah, this is the place. We stood in line outside at the first counter, bickering about which counter to order from. We ordered from that first counter, and it worked. We got lobster rolls and BLTs and a big root beer. I looked for real beer and didn't see it. And we didn't really know what next or where to pick up the food or listen for it. We had a number on a torn corner of paper. We went inside and stood around at the lobster tanks waiting. The tanks were in a room just inside the screen door near the indoor counter. Buggy wanted to look at the lobsters, and I wanted to see if you just had to buy the beer inside. But then I saw on a sign it was a BYOB only place, and also up near the ceiling along the whole restaurant, shelves of beer. This almost got me too. I sweated over this in a bad way. Coolly, I wanted to drink beer there because I knew I could. I didn't have beer. They didn't sell it. I had to walk it off. Walked around the place to get a lay of the land. It's deceiving from the outside. It feels so big in there. The wood's much darker inside, not being sun-bleached. A long cement floor, picnic-style tables, worn soft and splintery like driftwood. There were other salt-hued and faded things. It was really a pretty place. Back in front of the lobster tanks, I said, "You're on camera, smile," in an announcer-like voice, a voice of announcement and warning, like at the airport, pointing to a sign. Buggy thought the lobsters in their tank were so cute. I think we're about to eat one, I said. We sat at a table near a lady with an intercom microphone calling out numbers. We sat down looking at the little torn paper every time to check if it was our number. I sat there sweating, looking at the shelves of empties lining the ceiling, beers from all over the world, beers that came to be drunk here with lobsters or steamers or a fried seafood plate. 798B. We took our food from a counter inside that neither of us noticed until our number was called. First, we went up to the counter inside we initially noticed. Then we were pointed to where we needed to go. We took our food on 2 orange trays and walked the length of the place and outside. Me and my baby sat around back on a tiled top picnic bench at the edge of the deck. We sat above the marsh, looking over the water and grass as we ate. We talked about planting strawberries and eating popcorn at the pier back home. She told me she couldn't believe I'd never noticed that about the guy who's always at the bar. I never really caught it. We looked across the water. I tried to see something in the water. A fin, a wake, a fish jumping, a boat, a seagull. I was listening to Buggy, and then I thought about how I tend to talk a lot when we go out because I only really talk to her. And that's fine. It's not even the same kind of communication. I said, it's funny to think, how do we be happy now? Like, what next? When we're done eating and just drive home? Buggy said, I'm happy now. And now I keep thinking about this other thing from the week after all this. I was happy. I don't think they're connected. Buggy went to the ER for stomach pain. Everything was fine. She said I could say this. And after, at home, Buggy made me stay in a different room all night because I'd been on a very noticeable few days long streak of being funny and making her laugh. And it hurt when she laughed. That was I Took My Baby Down to Brown's Lobster Pound by Nathan Dragon from The Champ Is Here, which is available now. You can get this. You should get this. It's great. It's available from Cash for Gold Books. You can get it at all the places you would ordinarily get books, I'm sure. I know online you can order it from bookshop.org and Amazon, etc. I'm sure it's in some stores. I'm almost positive it's probably in Powell's if you're in the Portland area, because they're cool like that. And they stock Noon, and they stock a lot of small press stuff, so maybe. But if not, just order it online. No harm, no foul. I had to order it online. But yeah, it's fantastic. Nathan Dragon is, like I said before, he's just one of my favorite short story guys for sure. I don't know. I'm always looking forward to whatever comes next for him. And now that I know there's a novel, I'm very excited. I don't know when that's going to come out. But excerpts are appearing. So hopefully sooner rather than later. I hope it's not one of those cases where, excerpts of it are being published years in advance and we have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. But even if so, I just hope I'm still alive. Damn. Please get it to me quicker. What if I get hit by the bus? The proverbial bus, of course. Anyway, oh wait. Oh shit, Kyle, you said something. I'm sorry. I was sitting here thinking you would recite it once you started talking favorite sentences. Yeah, you know me too well, man. Happily, in the near distance, the fence post was making the most of its colonial postcows. Let's see. Sorry. This chair is old and creaky. Anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. That's all I got for tonight. That was Two Pieces by Nathan Dragon. If you're watching, recently published by Southwest Review. published here in Dallas. Very cool. And I took my baby down to Brown's Lobster Pound from the collection. The Champ is here. And I'm tired and I'm going to keep reading quietly to myself and eventually go to bed. But thank you all for being here tonight. I love doing these. I'm sorry it was so long between the last one and this one. I'm going to try not to let that happen again. You too, Kyle. Appreciate you being here, man. We will talk soon. My bad. When I saw your message last night, I was very tired, so I liked it and meant to go back and respond to it this morning, but today kind of got away from me. So, but anyhow, I'll see y'all for the next one. Thanks for being here. Read Nathan Dragon, support small presses, and keep reading. Love y'all. Good night.